Hi, welcome to Watch It Played. My name is Rodney Smith. In this video, we're going to learn the 2 to 10 player game, Flick 'em Up, designed by Gaëtan Beaugenot and Jean-Yves Maupertuis, and published by Pretzel Games. The Wild West is a dangerous place, and that's especially true when the sheriff's posse and the Cooper clan square off. So close the saloon, lock up the bank, and tell the Undertaker to prepare for some new guests, because a shootout is getting started. Join me at the table, and let's learn how to play. Flick 'em Up is played on a flat surface using one of the 10 different setups in the scenario book, or players can, of course, create their own. In this video, we'll set up Scenario 1. The game comes with several wooden and cardboard components to create the play area of the scenario you've chosen. These buildings in particular have wooden support bases that you attach to the bottom to keep them standing upright. So find and arrange the illustrated buildings and scenery as shown in the picture of the scenario, and then return the rest of the scenery to the box. You can make the play area as big as you want, just ensure that you space the components out relative to what's shown in the diagram. I didn't make it too big in this case because I want you to be able to see most of the town on screen at once. I also built the town upside down, relative to you, but that's so that you'll be able to see the clock on the town hall building because that's an important part of the gameplay. When setting up, you'll also want to place the movement disc and gray bullets nearby. This is a stick of dynamite. It's only used in certain scenarios and not in this one, so I'll remove it. Players will divide into 2 teams as evenly as possible. So you could have 3 players on one team and 2 on another. One team will be the law and the other will be the outlaws. Each team takes a box and 5 cowboy tokens, figures, and hats. The Cooper clan takes these colors and the sheriff takes these, and regardless of the number of players, you will always have 5 cowboys per team. Place your team's cowboy tokens on the corresponding rack in any order like this. You'll notice, based on their position on the rack, each cowboy is also assigned a number. For example, the character of Pete is number 4 for the Cooper clan. The hats are also double-sided, one side blue, one side red. The scenario will tell you which side the hats should start, in this case, red side up. So our cowboys should be outfitted like this. Now we can tell which figure represents each cowboy character. You'll also notice a symbol by the number 1 on each team. That means that the Luke character in this game is the sheriff of the lawmen, and Billy here is the Cooper clan leader. Each cowboy also has 4 spaces here on the box. 1 for their default weapon, a pistol, 1 for hit tokens, and then 2 extra spaces. The scenario will indicate the number of hit point tokens that each cowboy begins the game with. In this case, all of them start with 3. If they had any unique equipment, that would also be indicated, but in this case, they all begin with the default pistol. This symbol represents the initiative token, and in this scenario, it will be given to Cowboy 1 on the Cooper clan team. So each team's completed box for this scenario would look like this. The boxes should be placed near each team, but outside of the town. And the cowboy figures should be placed as shown on the diagram. The clock should also be set at the time as indicated in the scenario, in this case, 6 o'clock, so the hand we have pointing at 6. The scenario will also specify any special rules to take note of, and it will tell players when the game ends and who wins. In this case, we're told cowboys can't enter the buildings, so we'll place these tokens in front of each one. And the game ends once a team loses its 3rd cowboy or the clock strikes midnight. And that's the setup. Flick 'em Up is played over a series of rounds that you'll keep track of using the town hall clock. Players will be racing to complete the objectives given by the scenario, and all of that running and gunning will be accomplished with the flick of a finger, as we'll see. During a round, each cowboy on the table will activate once. A cowboy is available to use if the color showing on its hat matches the color pointed to by the town hall clock. Here it's pointing at red, so this cowboy would be available. When a cowboy is used, you flip its hat over to show it's no longer available this round, but it will be usable again when the clock is pointing to blue during the next round. In a 2-player game, each player controls an entire team, and you take turns going back and forth activating a single cowboy. But let's take a look at how it works when there's more players. Let's say the sheriff's team has 3 players and the outlaws have 2. You'll notice I've created some name tags to help illustrate this. Each team will separately determine the order that their players will take turns in. For example, on the sheriff's team, Ray will be going first, then Sue, and then Tim. This is the order that the players will follow for the entire game. A scenario begins by playing the cowboy with the initiative token, which is on the outlaw team here. So Joe will take a turn using Cowboy 1, and I'll just remove the token to show that this cowboy has been activated. In a normal game, you would simply flip the cowboy's hat. After playing the cowboy with the initiative token at the start of a round, all other players are free to use any available cowboy from their team on their turn. For example, Ray goes next and might use Cowboy 3. Then Bob here might use Cowboy 5, and Sue might use Cowboy 2. Bob went last on this team, and there's no third player. So you go back to the first player, and this one might activate Cowboy 3. On this team, Tim would go next, maybe activating Cowboy 5. And back and forth it goes following the turn order the teams established until all of the cowboys have been used. At the start of the next round, the players to go first are the players who were due to go next when the previous round ended. In the case of the Outlaws, Joe had gone last, so Bob will go first at the start of the second round. And just as a reminder, each round starts with the team who has the initiative token, and the player going first on that team always has to activate the cowboy with that token. So Bob would be required to activate this cowboy first. When you take a turn with a cowboy, you may perform up to 2 actions with it. And the possible actions are moving, shooting, and interacting with items. You can perform actions in any order. You can do the same action twice. You can even just do 1 action, or no actions at all. But regardless of what you choose, even if you decide to give the cowboy no actions, when you're finished, flip its hat over to show that it cannot be activated again this round. So let's begin by taking a look at the move action. To move a chosen cowboy, temporarily replace it with the movement disc. Then flick it where you want to move to. Whenever you flick in the game, you use your index finger, but without the resistance of your thumb. So that would not be a legal flick. But you can press your finger against the table like this. If the disc did not touch an object, figure, or building during the flick, your cowboy has successfully moved, and you place it exactly where the disc was, oriented in the direction of the player's choosing. If this was your first action, you can choose to take a second, which could be moving again. When moving, if the disc leaves the play area or touches an object, figure, or building, the movement failed, and that one action is canceled. Any table pieces that were displaced are set back to where they were, and you return your cowboy to its starting position. However, on a failed move, you are allowed to orient your cowboy however you want. In this scenario, cowboys are not allowed to enter the buildings, but in some, you can. And you do this with a move action, flicking the disc between the 2 support blocks of the building you wish to enter. In this case, touching the inside of the support blocks is okay, and you enter successfully if your disc stops on or crosses any part of the imaginary line that goes from this front corner to this front corner here. But do keep in mind you can only enter through the front of a building. To show that you have entered, place the cowboy on one of the 2 support blocks of the building. There's no limit to the number of cowboys that can be in a building at one time, so if you have to, you might place some cowboys behind the support blocks as well. To exit a building, use a move action on a cowboy inside, and place the movement disc behind the building, flicking through the support blocks. You succeed as long as the disc completely crosses that imaginary line we saw earlier at the front of the building. It's also okay if you happen to touch the insides of the support blocks. If an object, not a figure, would ever block an entrance or exit, you can move it to the side just enough so that you can clear the path. But now, let's talk about the shooting action. As an action, you can place a gray disc bullet to the left or right of a cowboy where its arms extend, at a distance away from the figure equal to the width of a bullet. The player then fires the bullet by flicking it as we saw when moving. A cowboy is hit if the bullet knocks it over without hitting anything else first. If a cowboy's hat flies off, be sure to put it back on the side it was showing before it got hit. If a bullet hits or knocks over 2 cowboys, only the first is considered hit because, again, a cowboy is only hit if it is the first thing hit. Any other displaced cowboy or object is put back where it was. A hit cowboy loses a hit point from its stack, which you place in its team box here. While it's knocked over, a cowboy suffers no effect if hit by another bullet, or from dynamite, which is used in some scenarios. A downed cowboy will stand up the next time it's chosen to be activated. And you'll notice this cowboy still has its red hat. That means, even though it's been knocked down, it can still be activated this round. And when chosen, you stand it up and turn it to whatever facing the player chooses. It's then free to take up to 2 actions as normal. But remember, because it's standing, that means it could be shot again. A hit cowboy that doesn't fall over has only been grazed and doesn't lose a hit point. But be careful, if you accidentally hit down one of your own cowboys, it loses a hit point. If a shot bullet doesn't hit a cowboy, then the action is lost, but any game elements hit and displaced remain in their new locations. Sometimes a cowboy will have 2 or more pistols. If so, they may shoot at most 2 bullets with 1 action by placing a bullet on each side of the cowboy and flicking them one after the other. A cowboy inside a building can choose to shoot at cowboys outside by placing the bullet behind the building and aiming through the 2 support blocks. However, cowboys that are outside cannot shoot at cowboys who are inside. When a cowboy loses its last hit point, its figure is removed from the game, and its tile is also placed in the team box. Any objects it was holding are placed on the support blocks of the Undertaker's building, and if the dead cowboy had the initiative token, it is assigned to the cowboy who dealt the killing shot. Also, the hat of the dead cowboy is placed on its spot of the box, showing the color it had at the time of death. This is kept to ensure each team has an equal number of turns. Dead cowboys are also activated each round, but they get no actions. Instead, you just flip their hat over and then the next team goes. The player who should have activated a live cowboy on the turn that the team uses for a dead cowboy doesn't lose their turn. They will simply go the next time a live cowboy on their team is activated. Aside from moving and shooting, another action that cowboys can do while inside a building is picking up and dropping off objects. In this scenario, there are no additional items, but we'll bring some onto the table just to show how this works. When using an action to drop off a token, you take it from a cowboy's inventory and place it on the support column of a building it is in. When using an action to pick up a token, you take it from a building's support column and place it in your inventory. If a cowboy's inventory is full and it uses an action to pick up a token, then an exchange happens where the new token replaces a token already held that is then put on the support block. An exchange only costs 1 action. If a scenario includes face-down tokens, then a cowboy can spend its action to flip over a token for all to see and then choose to take or not take it as a single action. So those are the 3 possible actions: moving, shooting, and interacting with objects, picking them up and dropping them off. The game will continue until one of the 2 teams satisfies the victory condition of the scenario, or once the town hall clock strikes 12. And again, the scenario will dictate who is the winner in that case. Scenarios will sometimes introduce new rules that carry over into future scenarios, and you can see what additional rules are active by looking at the scenario map here. For example, this one means that the scenario will include duels, which we'll learn about now. With this rule active, as soon as a cowboy enters a building with 1 or more cowboys from the opposing team, there is a duel. You will want to have the duel in an area on the table away from the main action, and the dueling cowboys are placed across from each other at a distance of the player's choosing, but 3 to 4 feet is a nice distance. The player who entered the building last shoots first. If they miss, the opponent then moves forward the width of the movement disc and then shoots back. Then the other player advances and shoots as well, and this continues until one of the cowboys are hit. When a cowboy is hit, the duel is over and it loses a hit point. If hitting a cowboy causes it to lose its final hit point, then it is killed and removed from the game as usual. However, if it is still alive, the player who won the duel places the hit cowboy behind the building with its hat off and flicks it through the support blocks, placing the hat back on. The cowboy is left knocked over and the game continues as normal. Duels do not cost an action, but if the cowboy who caused the duel loses, their turn ends. Otherwise, it continues. A A cowboy in a duel with more than one pistol shoots twice before the other cowboy goes. However, if more than 2 cowboys are in the building when the duel takes place, all of them participate in the duel, except that cowboys of the same team advance and shoot one after the other before the opposing team takes another turn. As a cowboy is hit, it is thrown out of the building as before. But if there are still cowboys left in the duel from its team, then the duel continues until only one team remains in the building. I will leave you to discover the other rules in future scenarios on your own, like throwing dynamite, shooting the Winchester rifle, and several others that make each scenario unique. There are also 2 variants you can explore to give some cowboys on a team additional powers, as shown by these symbols on this side of their token. And that's everything you need to know to start playing Flick 'em Up. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to put them in the comments below, and I'll gladly answer them as soon as I get a chance. And stick around, because in a future episode, I'm also going to give a quick overview of the expansion for Flick 'em Up, Stallion Canyon. And this includes stallions and canyons and much more, including a ramp. But until the next episode, thanks for watching.